So first off, we'll take a look at Revit. What you have here is a three-dimensional virtual model of the building as we intend to build it. You can view the building from outside. You can also, because it's a 3D model, you can take sections through it. You can look inside the building, and when you look in there you see that all the elements that are required to make up that building, the external glazing, the cladding, the furniture, the partitions, the doors, the finishes, are all contained within the model as virtual representations of the real element. If we look at just this corner of the building and pick on a door element, for example, you'll see that that door, as well as having its three-dimensional graphic representation in the model, also contains a lot of data about that door. Its fire rating, its size, its finishes, its materials, its installation, manufacture. You can add your own parameters to this and capture all the information that's necessary about that door. That's true of any element within the model, whether it's a partition, for example, or an external wall. When you delve into the wall, you see that it's got its various layers, its stud layers, its finish layers, its plasterboard layers, all of which can be individually scheduled, individually quantified within the model and changed. If we look at the model view in 3D alongside some other views, these are just representations of the same model. They are not separately created views. The elevation, the plan, the door schedule are all just views of the three-dimensional database. Picking on a door within the schedule highlights it not only in the schedule but in the plan, in the elevation, and in the 3D view. Selecting an element in the model, such as again that door, I can create another door within the model simply by duplicating that element and placing it wherever I want to place it. In this case, I'll just place it beside the existing door in the model. Once I've placed it there, you'll see it's numbered in the plan, and you'll see that it's appeared in the 3D view, it's appeared in the elevation, and it's also appeared in the schedule. I'm not having to go back there and check. If I want to tag it on the elevation, I don't have to think what door number is that. I just pick on the door and the computer automatically knows, or Revit automatically knows, what that door is. That it's not just lines on an elevation representing a door, it is actually that door and has all its information about it. Picking it in the schedule highlights it in all of those views again. If I decide that that's not the right position for the door, that I want to move it, I have these temporary dimensions. Lots of different ways, but I have these temporary dimensions that I can use to move that door. Type in a different offset from that corner and it moves the door over appropriately. And not only does it move it in plan, you can see it's also moved in the elevation, it's moved in the 3D view as well. If I decide I want to have that as a different door type, I put it in to match the door that's there. I can select a different door from the list or import doors from a library, and in this case I've changed it to a glass door, and you can see it's changed in the elevation again in the section, or in the 3D view, and also in the door schedule. It's now a door type D rather than a door type A. Going back to the plan, and the section views in the model are just views of the model again. By picking on a section line and going to a view, I can go to any of the 3D views. Similarly with the 2D callouts, if I zoom in on one of those callouts or pick on one of those callouts, it takes me to a 2D view which has a little bit of extra annotation added to it, but underlying that detail is the 3D model geometry. Placing those views then on sheets allows you to produce the traditional outputs that you require to detail the building. And they can be changed. They have the underlying geometry. If you change the geometry, you can then see that in those details and be able to keep those up to date as well. If there's a view of the model which hasn't been provided, it's very easy to create another section view, say through the model, by drawing a section line through the area that you are interested in and going to that view in the model. That takes you to the section view, and again all the other sections that relate to that view are also live there. You can pick on those and you can flick into those to view that particular area that you're interested in from different angles. Because it's a 3D model, you can also view that section or any view in the model in 3 dimensions. Focusing in on a part of that 3D view, you can see, if I just focus in on that area at the top of the wall, there may be a problem which would be difficult to see perhaps in a 2D environment. You've got the duct coming through from the toilet into the classroom, which is clashing with the beam. You've got the partition between the two rooms, which is not closed at the top. The first time you might find out about these is when somebody asks you if you can drop the ceiling in the classroom, which is obviously not an interesting conversation. To communicate how any of the particular spaces in the building will work, it's simply a case of dropping a camera view into a space. Now these are not static 2D views. These are live views. You can look around in that space, you can change the viewpoint, you can select elements within the model in those viewpoints. Similarly, externally, if you want to see what your building looks like, you can again just drop a camera view in a location outside the building, point it in the direction you want the view to be, and you can create lots of these, and you get a 3D view of that corner of the building showing you what it would look like. That's the way it comes out of Revit naturally. You can create as many of those as you want, and obviously you can within Revit render that view and get a pretty impressive output from Revit itself without having to take it into other tools. But of course you can dynamically link this into something like 3D Studio Max to get a higher quality, maybe for publication, view of this model. So that's just a brief overview of Revit.